to silence your cell phones. For those attending via teleconference, please mute your phone until you are ready to speak. This prevents background noise. Thank you. Last month, we lost a friend, a colleague, and a valued committee member. Our deepest sympathies go to the family and friends of Chet Lewis, who passed away unexpectedly on October 11th, 2017. Chet had worked at multiple institutions as a business officer, most recently at San Jacinto College. While Chet's position was largely focused on the fiscal side of San Jacinto, he was passionate about all aspects of the college, with his ultimate interests being focused on how students were impacted and supported. The committee will now honor Chet with a moment of silence. Thank you. I would like to welcome a new member to the committee, Ms. Terry Crawford from San Jacinto College. Terry, welcome. Have you. We have a full agenda for this meeting, so let's begin by having Mr. Gilmore call the roll.
Ms. Terry Crawford. Mr. Cesar Maldonado.
Hi, this is Warren Hurd. Dr. Maldonado's at a board meeting. I'm sitting in for him.
Okay. Dr. Van Miller.
Here.
Mr. Patrick Lee.
Here.
Mr. Richard Cervantes.
Here.
Ms. Mary Wicklund.
Here.
Mr. Jim Yiannopoulos.
Here.
Mr. Michael Reeser. Dr. Robert Raza, sorry. Dr. Pam Anglin.
Here.
Dr. Ron Clinton.
Here.
Dr. Jeremy McMillan.
Here.
Dr. Phil Rhodes.
Here.
A quorum is present. As a reminder, members on the call are permitted to vote. We will begin with item 2 and your consideration and approval of the minutes from October 12th, 2017 meeting. The draft minutes were included in the meeting materials. Do any of our members have comments, questions, or corrections to the draft minutes?
Move approval.
Dr. McMillan motioned approval, and Dr. Miller seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Item 3 is discussion, review, and consideration of the Commissioner's 2020-2021 biennium charges. Charge 1 is to study and make recommendations for the appropriate funding levels for the core, contact hour, and student success funding. We have no recommendations at this time, but Ms. Wicklund, do you have any updates from your work group?
Yes, I will speak on the state colleges, and Jeremy will speak for the community. We would like to propose state colleges funding for the 2021 increase or 65 increase includes a growth rate of 3.53% in an actual increase in the funding rate of from 705 to 751 for 46 cents. We also are proposing to fund the state support formula and small institutional supplement at the same $8.6 million, and that be split for the space support be split between the utilities and operation and maintenance components, and that to fund the small institutional supplement using the same methodology. And so that is what we're planning on proposing. Jeremy, any comments?
Go ahead,
All
Dr.
right.
McMillan.
So on the community college side, the proposal is that the community college-based funding on the current reimbursement model, after consideration of projection and growth in contact hours and success points adjusted for inflation, as prepared by the coordinating board during our first review of this, and I think it's in the current packet as well. That would be a 5.6% increase. The contact hours would go from 1.51 million to 1.59 billion to 1.59 billion. Success points would go from 180 million to 195 million. BAT would go from 2.8 to 3.1. Core would stay the same at 68 million. That's a 5.6% increase. Additionally, we would recommend that the success points be brought up to the funding of $215 per contact hour or per point, and that would add an additional 49 million to that. The overall increase, if you add all those in, would be a 8.4% increase. That would change the funding proportion of success points to be about 13.25% as it related to success points and contact hours funding. So those are the recommendations for those items. And this also asked us to ponder success points. I'm not sure if we want to talk about the fact that we would like to have some study of success points here, or if that should come under the recommendation for charge 4, which related to critical fields and the field of study. But we do believe that it's time to think about success points and what is allocated across success points and we need to take the time between now and the next time this committee meets to bring recommendations forward on that front. So.
Any further discussion? We'll move to charge 2, to study and make recommendations for the appropriate funding level for and the refinement of the Texas State Technical College System's returned value funding formula. We have no recommendations here at this time. And do we have any follow-up on what Mr. Reeser's work group?
I have a little of information. I think he's going to follow the recommendation that we've discussed, that we've sent to him, and he's going to also recommend funding dual credit through contact hour to align better with the CTC group. As far as, that's as much as I know at this time.
Any input from anyone working in that work group with him?
I'm in that group as well, and I think what Mr. Gilmore said, that's exactly what we've been discussing.
Okay.
Is sticking with the current recommendation, the CTC model of contact hour funding for dual credit.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move to charge 3, to study and make recommendations on the treatment of competency-based courses in formula allocations. We have no recommendations at this time. Mr. Yiannopoulos, do you have any updates from the work group? Any discussion on funding of competency-based education? Then we'll move to charge 4, which is study and make recommendations on the efficacy of critical need fields as they relate to contact hour and success point funding. We have no recommendations at this time. Additional critical field information was provided in the agenda materials for the committee review. And we have Dr. Chelsea Moore from the coordinating board here to answer any questions that you have today. Ms. Wickland, do you have any updates from your work group?
I believe Jeremy's going to give the update on that.
So we discussed this with the community college presidents, and we appreciate the bringing the critical fields concept forward, and then also the notion of field of study. But our recommendation would be to not make that change in the current upcoming biennium, but that become a part of the study of what we look at the success points metrics, because if you start changing those, and that's based upon a number of things, including that only 21 colleges are currently identifying field of study. I also think that maybe there could be some thought about whether we refresh the critical fields study in the interim, and we'd probably just make some general recommendations about that. But overall, no change, just fund based on contact hours and use the current critical fields is what the.
Any further discussion on charge 4?
The only point I want to make sure we're clear on this work group that we're thinking about for the interim in terms of the success points and possibly building in critical fields. And it might be something where if we craft something in writing and, share that in terms of exactly how you're thinking of constructing that, because this committee, of course, will adjourn.
Right.
Would it be a group of this committee a subgroup of this committee that you would want to separately consider them a working group, and the recommendation would be that a working group along those lines would be convened?
The discussion at the last TAC meeting was that it would be that the chancellor at San Jacinto College helped us with that last time, and that
Yes.
she gets to carry that torch again, and that presidents that would be interested in that work would be involved. And I would assume that might involve some individuals from this group, but it also might involve some institutional research type individuals or CFO type individuals as well, and coordinating board. So I would think that we could look to the model we had last time, and then also look to what we learned from that and do the best we can from that going forward. So if you have recommendations.
No, that's actually helpful, and I've actually worked with that group and Dr. Hellier that was looking at the success points. So the recommendation would be to use that body that currently exists, maybe with some additional members, some members from this committee, and of course there are IR folks who are involved in that group, and the recommendation might involve the types of things this group would like them to look at. Does that
The thinking
characterize
is
it pretty well?
they've studied this in depth. They know a lot more about
Yes.
it than even members of this committee do. But we may have some value to add to it as well.
For sure. Okay, great. Thank you.
And I would just say I did serve on that committee previously.
Volunteering?
And, well, I've been told I'm volunteering, yes.
Wonderful.
I have been volunteered, yes.
If we were able to offer.
I think if we can have this committee look at everything, it would be a good time to start looking at tying our success points to 60 by 30.
Yeah.
So that our success points measures are linked to the coordinating board's strategic plan.
We can write something along those lines for you to look at, yeah.
Charge 5 is to study and make recommendations on a new formula to fund dual credit programs based upon the number of semester credit hours offered in dual credit by Texas State Technical College. There are no recommendations at this time. Dr. McMillan, do you have any work group updates?
So the work group, via email, we sent out 2 recommendations, and the recommendation for TSTC is that they be awarded funding based on contact hour reimbursement, just like Texas community colleges are for dual credit classes. In the last conversation I had with Mike, he was agreeable to that, so we would need to validate that.
Any further discussion? Charge 6, review existing coordinating board data on dual credit program funding, including preliminary data available from the 2017-18 dual credit study being conducted by contracted research organizations, and share insight on current dual credit funding mechanisms. There are no recommendations at this time. Additional dual credit information was provided in the agenda materials for the committee's review. Dr. McMillan, do you have any work group updates?
Yeah, so we think the recommendation will be that we continue to fund those based on contact hour reimbursement and current success point formulas as those are figured in there. So really no changes to the way the formula is calculated, but however those grow would be part of the funding.
Do we have any further discussions? There are no other comments on dual credit, then we will move to item 4, which is our next meeting, scheduled for December 7th at 1:00 p.m. A work group should have their draft recommendations for final discussion and approval by the full committee. So we'll take your recommendations and put them in a draft to bring back to the committee at that December meeting.
Is there a deadline we need that to be posted in advance, or what do you have any guidance for us on that?
Well, what we would like to do is all the recommendations be in, as well as the report, ready for posting 2 weeks prior to the December 7th meeting. So that gives you roughly about 2 weeks after this meeting to give me all those materials so that I can make them ready for that and the final approval for.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable?
So short turnaround so that we'll be prepared for our December meeting.
And we're certainly happy to provide any assistance if needed on some of this work. Oh, I was going to say, yeah. Yeah.
The sooner the better, obviously. I think we're pretty close.
Item 5 is adjournment. If there are no further questions or points of discussions, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Dr. Riza. Do we have a second? Mr. Yiannopoulos. Community and Technical Colleges Formula Advisory Committee is adjourned until December 7th, 2017 at 1:00 p.m.